Welcome to The Lumber Word, where industry veterans Matt Beamer, Greg Riley, and Ashley Buckhold dissect the world of commodity lumber each week. We bring you up-to-date insights on supply, demand, and market trends, sharing our trading expertise to benefit everyone in the supply chain. Join us for informative and entertaining discussions that guarantee to make you wiser about all things lumber.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to The Lumber Word. This is the podcast where we talk about lumber, everything lumber, and take Matt and Greg and my ideas and try to come up with some kind of conclusion what we should be doing real quick. Let's throw the disclaimer out there. Lumber Word podcast is dedicated to engaging conversation about the lumber industry, including trading ideas, market trends, and evaluations of overvalued and undervalued assets. We wish to emphasize that the discussions and opinions expressed in this podcast are purely for informational and entertainment purposes. They should not be considered as financial investment advice. We encourage our listeners to make their own financial decisions, taking into account their unique circumstances and financial goals, and to seek professional financial advice if necessary. Oh, there we go. We got it out of the way, boys.
You know, and for the crowd that listens to this, they, they should definitely consult somebody. Because this is strictly for entertainment value.
That's great. I wanted us to start out. This is our first show in a couple of weeks. I was over in Europe for a week, got back, jumped right on a plane with Greg, and went over to Columbus, Ohio for the NAWLA show. So we were looking forward to kind of breaking down. The NAWLA show was in Columbus, Ohio. Actually ended up being a great venue. And what we're going to talk about on the show a little bit today is what the market has done over the last week. We'll have Matt talk to us about that. And then general feedback from the show. We're going to talk about some of the economics we heard about, overvalued, undervalued items, what's going on with housing, multifamily and single, and then just kind of talk about some other things. So I think the first cool thing to talk about is what happened in the market this week, Matt, and really in the last few weeks since I was out. We've had a nice little run. Things look better. We got through our seasonal weakness in the third week of October, and what did you see this week?
Well, I've seen, I guess the best way to characterize it would be people that I consider to be smart, smart buyers, I suppose, are paying more to get what they want. And the tally is the more important thing right now than the price, which for most of the last 3 months, let's say, you had to win both. You had to win the tally and the price, and it seems like the price is less important now than the tally, and they're paying more for what they want, which is, to me, that's a sign of underlying strength in the market.
Matt, from obviously where I sit, it feels very like spruce centric rally, yellow pine not really participating. How solid was the U.S. West? Did you see the same level in that?
It's all Western U.S. and Canadian species right now. It's just full steam ahead at Hampton. So whether it's green Doug fir or dry Doug fir, dry hem fir, dry spruce, just everything that we make has been trading in significant volumes, and we're getting more for it today than we were on Monday.
So overvalued, undervalued. I just want to touch on that quick. I know, Greg, when we were flying back and we were chatting, you made the comment of, hey, some things moved a lot and some things didn't move much at all. And I think just listening to what, Matt, what Greg we're looking at, like, so 2x4 9-footers moved quite a bit. 2x4 16s continued to firm up. 2x6s, even though they've moved a little bit, they haven't had the same kind of move that some of the other items have had.
When you look at the market, look at, if you go back 6, 7, 8 weeks, 2x4 8-footers were premium to 2x4 9-footers. 2x6 9-footers were still, while the premium had closed from a couple $100, they were still at a premium to 2x4 9-footers. You look today, and now 8-footers, $20, $25 discount. 2x6 9s, $20, $25 discount to 2x4 9s. I'm talking Eastern spruce right now. I'm not sure if those numbers all hold up the same in Western U.S. species, Matt. Did you see the same thing there?
I can tell you my opinion about the
Well, damn, man, that's all we want is we want your opinion. Come on.
no, okay, so this is both based on fact and history. But yeah, you're right that the 8-foot was a premium and now it's a discount. And 2x6 studs were a premium, and we joked about them being overvalued back in August, and now they're undervalued. But the point really if you want to look at 2x4 8 versus 9, just look at the calendar. I mean, it's we're going into Thanksgiving and Christmas. The home center business really, this is kind of a lull time of year for them between now and say late February. And so 8-footers are going to be available. But what happens, come spring season when the retailers want to start piling up some inventory of premium 8-footers, are going to start doing that sometime in February. That generally will last all the way through into like September, October. This is the time of year where if you like to buy premium studs, you should have your PO book open and be looking around, because they're going to be available to you in some limited quantities, both east and west. Whereas, for 9 months of the year, you can't buy them because they're all getting programmed out.
Yeah.
Hey, Ash. So, you left a couple of weeks ago. I know you had a fantastic trip over there, kind of a Sound of Music trip kind of thing, up in the mountains of Switzerland. I mean, that was pretty cool.
It was more of a Ricola trip.
But so we felt there was there was short covering going on there, and that we felt there was that last call we had was saying, yeah, the market's kind of at equilibrium. We were talking about the seasonality. One of the things over the last week or so, I've been surprised at what the realization about how underbought the market really was. Then that's end user, distribution, brokerage. When guys are telling me, earlier this week, going, oh no, this guy's still trying to cover shorts. I'm like, what?
We spent a lot of time walking around the show. Matt, when we went there, our biggest thing was, when I say the show, the North American Wholesale Lumber Association show, we wanted to come back with an idea where everybody's head was at. And I always have the hardest time not trying to just justify my position, but find out if I'm right or wrong on some things, right?
How did you two determine that inventory's so light?
I determined that inventories were light because how aggressively people were asking me for shipping information. Not even due. Is that shipped yet? I mean, and God forbid that the email was like that. Oh, that was due on the due date on the PO was Friday and it was Monday.
Also RFQs, right? Like there was an air pocket in RFQs for, when I say they're always coming across, right? But there was a while there where there wasn't, Greg and I always laugh sometimes because we'll spend a lot of time filling out RFQs in the morning, right? Some of those just disappeared for like 3 weeks, some of the volume.
Sure. Yeah. When you've got the corporate bigwigs telling people to get their inventory down for year end or quarter end because of, cost of money and all that stuff, what do you expect?
So that's good. That kind of leads me to my question is, so if we've had 2 to 3 weeks of, correcting oversold and some we've clearly been inventory accumulation when, people are buying cars that ship 1120 and 1127. That's lumber, depending where you are in the country, it's coming in. That's a Christmas present for you, right?
Yeah, that's first quarter lumber.
Right. It's so that's exactly what I mean. So people have been buying lumber for the last, week, 10 days, by and large, for first quarter business.
Right.
And I'm just positing, is that because they want to get in front of what they perceive could be strength because of year-end shutdowns?
Well, I will say one thing. We sat down, Greg, with a handful of people that do forward pricing, buy it, sell it. And it seems there was, in the last week, pretty good amount of people sending inquiries over for forward pricing, right? but they were carrying a decent, not tremendous, but a decent one. But the forward number is a big number relative to the spot market. So I think a lot of people were probably buying for the first quarter of their forward needs and putting them in a warehouse.
Yeah, we know that there were some jobs that were placed for the first quarter. It was buy and hold because of the premium. Ash, we can deviate on this. They did have an economic presentation there. Guy from the Association of Contractors. Was not a real lumber guy. He was kind of more of a overall like building products, not lumber centric, but like everything. Lumber's part of it. And one of the things that
I missed that one, Greg. Did he tell everybody what they want to hear or
no,
they?
He was. I mean, there was a lot of numbers, which is okay because I'm a bit of a numbers geek. You know that. I mean, we got in there with Paul Janke at FEA, and I mean, he was throwing stuff at me. I thought it was porn. I really did.
Good information. So I was with you talking to that, but go ahead.
Yeah,
what's your feedback on the economics?
The takeaway I had, there was a lot of stuff that was like drib, drib, drib. So here's a funny side story. I walk into the presentation and there's, one of the NAWLA staff and there's a guy standing there and I don't know, who he was or whatnot. I go, hey, so is this guy any good? He goes, well, yeah, exactly. I go, really? He's going to be any good? And so he gives me his card. I had to pay no attention to it. He goes, well, let me know like during the presentation or after whether it's any good. And so next thing I know, I see him up front.
It was the guy.
I went, oh, okay. Yeah. I guess I rallied him for it. But my takeaway was, here's the 45 minutes in a nutshell. U.S. economy probably not gonna necessarily go recession, but growth slows next year, and that's based on the basis that there's still too much money flowing through the system. But then digging down a bunch of stuff that I don't really care about, but multifamily is going to be down 25 to 30% next year. That's his projection. And then we followed up that conversation with Paul Janke at FEA, who kind of reaffirmed that he said, yeah, we think single families kind of flat and multifamily will be down. His number was maybe 20%, right?
Paul's information was interesting because single family was now, if I'm thinking right, he showed us a PowerPoint on his
70%.
70%. Yep. And here's the hard thing I always have, and also the positive thing I get out of these. My brain wasn't caught up to where the actual stats are at this point, if that makes sense. I was still thinking we're probably got some more downside on single family. What I heard was single family has already leveled off, maybe went up a little bit. And because of the actual houses under construction, there's an ample amount of homes still being built in the pipeline, and the square footage of homes has stopped going down and has actually started going up, because in these type of markets, the actual homes that are getting built and sold are going to a larger percent of them are going to higher end buyers and larger square footage.
So what I heard him say, Ash, was that while housing starts may fall some, lumber consumption has already bottomed out based on the whole cycle time and like where things are in a project. That's what I heard. And as you know, we had a lot of dialogue around that and drilling down and whatnot have you, things that.
And because of the single family home percentage moving a little bit north of the multifamily, and he kind of threw out the less lumber used in multifamily, more lumber used in single family
than there is in multifamily, because every skyscraper that gets put up is multifamily. Skyscraper of residential that gets put up, concrete.
One interesting conversation we had. You grabbed a treater on the floor and said, "Hey, have you done your business with the home centers yet?"
Right.
And the treater was like, yes, most of that is already in the books for part of next year. And one of the big home centers expected the same or a little less.
One was slightly up and one was down. Right.
Yeah,
one
so
projected
there was
higher, one projected lower.
Right.
And Matt, I don't know if you have that info from a Hampton perspective on volumes
No,
for
no,
next year.
I think that jives with what we're hearing. Just consumption is going to be about the same for 2024 from that retail segment. And I've talked about single family and how I'm bullish on single family just because they can kind of control their own destiny with financing, and they can build a smaller house, or they can throw in some custom stuff for people, whereas the existing home guy can't.
Or buy the mortgage down to 4.45%
Yeah,
for a
that's
30
what I
year.
mean. Like they can play around with the money. What you're hearing about multifamily and what we're seeing with multifamily bids and job quotes for the first quarter is the opposite. So we're getting flooded with orders and inquiries all of a sudden here in the last 3-4 weeks of people that want to cover themselves up for the first quarter. I mean, I guess maybe the whole business is just going to fall apart after the first quarter based on what you're saying about a 25% drop, but I don't know. We'll see how that really develops. Let's talk about production. Okay, so we just talked about consumption. Let's talk about production. And Ashley, you asked earlier about, you mentioned something about production, and I guess, yeah, I mean, people that are out there buying lumber for the 20th or 27th or even first week of December, are they making a gambler's bet that there's just going to be less lumber around in the first quarter? I mean, I think so.
Well, there's always less lumber around the first quarter because it's the lowest production quarter of the year. Fourth quarter is the highest and first quarter is the lowest, mostly due to weather.
Well, the way I described it internally this week, I said, "Hey, look, Hampton's one of the healthiest, financially solid companies in the lumber business, and if we're losing money at most of our sawmills, if not all of them, then I'm sure everybody else is too." And the math just doesn't work. I mean, whether you're a Canadian producer or U.S. producer, even a yellow pine guys, that math in Alabama, it's not working very well. So
My question is how much production curtailment does Hampton have announced right now?
I don't think anyone's going to announce anything, and that's the other side of the coin here. I don't think the big publicly traded companies in Canada are going to say anything. I think they're just going to do it. And the only way we'll hear about it is from scuttlebutt, or if you happen to know somebody that works at a sawmill, they might talk about it. But I think Hampton and other companies in the Western United States are probably going to take that Thanksgiving week off, and probably 2 weeks around Christmas off, maybe even 3. And I just think there's going to be a lot less production over the next 6 weeks than that assumes neutral weather, right? So what happens if we get winter storms and ice storms and yucky weather that we tend to get sometime in December and January? That can also throw a kink in the production side. But yeah, I just think whether it's Canadian production or U.S. West production or even yellow pine production, I think there's just going to be a significant amount of lumber not produced over the next 45 to 60 days. I really do.
I agree. That just like because you said it's the holidays and whatnot. I mean, there's no question. There's going to be less lumber produced in the next 45 to 60 days. I agree.
We're already running at a pretty low rate right now. I mean, if you look at what's coming across the border every month from Canada, we're sub a billion board feet right now. I don't know. It feels like, in my opinion, people have gotten really complacent about buying lumber and just figure they can get it whenever they want it, whether it's from the ports or whether it's from me or whether it's from a
that's
sawmill.
seasonal. I mean, if anybody listened to our call, we said that lumber bottoms the third week in October, and we're like, it basically happened. It bottomed the third week in October. There's seasonal strength now through the first quarter, right? I mean, there's no question about it.
Greg, we looked at, and Paul and a couple other people had those slides that show each market segment for mills. And yes, Matt, you're right. I mean, there are even European mills, Central European, other parts of Europe are. Here's what I came up with. It seems like everybody is losing money, but still have enough hope and not enough yet to pull any real significant production. When I talk significant production, I'm talking significant production. And a matter of fact, some of the mills we talked to are looking at this little rally and maybe getting bulled up again, where
I talked to one importer that, like, I mean, he had the horns on. I mean, he took, I mean, he was like, you know, whoa. I mean, I needed to go, whoa, whoa. He was like Boomtown again.
yeah, but the overall feeling, when I walked away from there, people were to the bullish side, neutral to bullish. Some people very bullish, right?
Market, I guess if you know, kind of in a debrief standpoint, you know, if I'm in, you know, the CIA and they're like debriefing me from my op, there's a general backdrop that everybody has of concern about higher mortgage rates, you know, all of that negative stuff. But things have continued to be better than they thought they were going to be, and so they think things are going to be just fine next year.
Yeah, and I'm just like I'm not like super bullish like your Euro buddy, because there are mitigating factors in our business, and there's a reason why lumber prices have gotten as low as they've gotten over the last 3-4 months. But I'm bullish because of the market makeup, the time of year,
right,
and just historical seasonal factors that tend to repeat themselves. This year, let's look at this year as opposed to last year at this time. Last year at this time, people were shedding inventory from the third quarter because we had pretty high inventories at that time.
Yes. And there was a huge amount of fear about how much business was going to be down in 2023. I mean, guys were throwing like 1.1 million housing start numbers, right? They were like the negativity about the next year was high.
Yeah.
And the Euros had made it like a decision somewhere along the line to just bring a ton of lumber into the US without selling it first. And so, I mean, there was some different things going on last year at this time. Then this year we're coming into the final stretch of the year with much lower inventories in the field, and the Euros aren't bringing big chunks of lumber over here unsold. And the sawmills are all looking at curtailing because they're getting their teeth kicked in on the money side. I don't know. I'm just going to buy lumber.
I'm just going to challenge the curtailment thesis, Matt, from the standpoint of lumber mills shut down because they have too much inventory and they can't sell it. And lumber mills shut down for extended period of time because they've lost money for too long and they're losing too much money and they have no hope. So most sawmills have lots and lots of cash still from COVID boom time. They're all losing a little bit of money and they all have a lot of hope. And they're able to sell everything that they make every day.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the meetings we had there, Greg. I thought the CME meeting was pretty cool.
Yeah, we had a great meeting. We had a great meeting with the CME. So one of the things we talked about is the success of the new contract, right, Ash?
Yeah, they're pretty happy with the volume and actually it becoming it actually gaining traction pretty well, starting to.
They were ecstatic. I'm like, oh yeah, you get 10,000 open interest. Like, when you get 20,000, let's break the champagne bottle out then. I mean, 10,000.
But you asked a good question. You said, was a smaller contract bringing in more participants? And they said yes.
Yeah, they did. That's right.
Yeah.
But the two things that I took away. Number one is I said, how many deliveries have there been in the 3 expirations? 0. The sign of a really good contract is that no one does delivery. That's because typically if people are making and taking delivery, it's because of something structurally flawed in the makeup of the contract. So that was a big, big plus. I will say they're creating a EFP directory on the CME website. So people, and did they say they were creating like some frequently asked questions or tutorial?
Well, they were talking about what would help people in the industry understand how simple EFPs are to participate more. And I said, draw a chart with stick figures and people on a rotary phone doing an EFP to show how simple it is. But they basically going to put a directory out.
That may be too complex for our industry, Ash.
Yeah, but they're going to put a directory out, and then the real thing I'm excited about is they're talking about a potential Southern Pine contract coming out.
Yeah, that was a really exciting conversation about how that would be structured. And I mean, I think the opportunities given how much Southern Pine is produced, that I think the industry, that would be a boon to the industry for sure.
Yeah, and just real quick, while we're on the CME thing, we got expiration next week. The board is still carrying the CME lumber futures contract is still carrying, based on what I saw was traded today in 4-inch, a premium to the 4-inch market, and that January NOV spread continued to go out a little bit. What's your guys' thoughts on the expiration? What's going on with the futures, the back months, etc.?
Forest is openly available to EFP with any long futures players. Please, contact Ashley or myself if you'd like to EFP. We have a wide range of opportunities, from Eastern cars delivered in the Midwest, European spruce in the Southeast, and Texas. And we can come up with some other sweeteners too, if so be it.
Great idea. And I did send my information back to them to get us on the EFP.
That's under the shameless self-promotion plug right there, Ash. I mean,
no doubt. The cool thing was, Matt, we get to run into all of our old block alumni that are all over the world now.
We had a party. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, it was good.
But what else is there to do in Columbus?
Well, here's the cool thing. Greg and I were walking around the floor separately a bunch of times. I thought it was cool, Greg, how many people said that they listened to the podcast.
I was surprised by some people and other random people that shared their input. I mean, it was mostly all positive. We did get some good feedback. One of them was how much, while they may think we're okay, they like it when we have guests on.
Yes,
we've kind of been recruiting a guest schedule for the next month or so. Yeah.
Right. And then it was great how somebody ran us down at 10:30 at night after dinner and said, "Hey, I love listening to it, but if you charge me for it, I'm not going to." Like,
I don't want to have to pay. But it's that's classic lumber people. God, I love that. Right? Yeah, we love.
Yeah, but I mean, we heard some good things, and anybody on this podcast can go to our website, thelumberword.com, and give us some feedback. We heard things to, some of the younger people that listened, think our demographics are a little old and white, but I don't feel that way at all. I think
you're only as old as you think. You're only as old as you think you are, Ashley.
Yeah, well, we could do a good job representing some of the people that need to understand some of the terminology and different things we speak in the industry, and help some of the younger people move along through the industry also, and get some more decent some guests on here, which you actually were lined up a bunch of them while we were there.
Yeah. No, we got some good with. I'm thinking Russ Taylor for next week. Talk production.
Yeah, we got Russ. We talked to Chris up in Wisconsin.
That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We've got Paul from FEA wants to get on. And one thing that I loved about FEA was the fact that they're doing real prices now to price lumber in the market, right? As a publication.
Right. They're collecting real-time transactions that are the actual numbers that transactions happen at, not like putting their finger in the air and making something up.
Think about that. There'd be less lag in the market on the reporting. Then they're gonna have there's gonna be a real competition going on there between the different publications now that they're doing that. So everybody, thank you for waiting for 2 weeks for this podcast to come out with all the traveling and shows we had. We really appreciate you being on here. Come and visit our website at thelumberword.com. promote our show for us, give us any ideas of any guests you want. That kind of concludes today's show, and hopefully you get something out of it, and we'll look forward to getting your feedback and hearing from you next week.